Hi, we'd like to welcome you to another webinar designed for public transit agencies. Today we're going to be covering how you can use GIS and GIS technology to help you meet all of the requirements for FTA's safety management system. So I'm Terry Bills, I'm the Transportation Industry Manager here at Esri, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. I am joined by Justin Kreuzinga, who's an account executive on our public transportation team, and Jay Hagan, a solution engineer, also from our public transit team. So today we'd like to show you really an integrated solution, which is, as I said, really designed to help address the requirements of FTA's safety management system rule, which was part of the larger public transportation agency safety plan. And while most of you are probably familiar with these requirements, I suspect that a number of you did not envision that GIS could really be the centerpiece of really a comprehensive transit safety management system. So our hope is that after today, you'll agree with us that GIS is in fact the perfect foundation for an agency-wide safety management system. Before we begin, let me point out we are recording this webinar, and while everyone will be on mute, there will be time for question and answers at the end of the webinar. Just type your questions into the question box and we'll try to answer as many as time allows. In addition, the slides that you do see as part of today's webinar will be made available, and we'll give you the links to a full range of resources at the end of the webinar. So to start off, let's look at the requirements of the FTA rule. And much of the design really came from this original National Public Transit Safety Plan, which was issued back, as you can see, in 2017. The rule itself was issued in 2018, really with the intent of directing greater attention to the safety and the security of our public transit systems, and both to ensure that the riders as well as staff of a safe, efficient, and reliable public transportation system. The goal was to tie transit asset management requirements and a state of good repair to an agency's safety policies, and to really help guide resource and investment decisions for transit agencies. And while not every transit agency had to comply, the largest majority of transit agencies that receive FTA grant funds are required to develop an agency action plan. The rule was originally meant to be fully implemented by July 20th of 2020, but has been extended to 2021. And at heart, the rule was designed to move public transit agencies to a more proactive approach to safety, one that is both data and performance driven, and which relies on calculations of risk to help guide resource and investment decisions. So the safety management system is really at the heart of the agency safety plan. It really has four major elements or components to the system. At the center of the safety management system is the agency's safety management policy. That's designed to be a written document which effectively captures the policies, and the goals, and the performance targets for the agency's safety performance. And it explicitly commits an agency to the development and implementation of the organizational structures and assigning resources necessary to sustain the safety management processes and the activities of a safety management system. It really embodies the agency's commitment to safety goals, who's responsible. Typically, there's the top management of the agency together with a chief safety officer who leads the program, and how the agency will be measured to demonstrate their accountability. In addition, it must spell out procedures for collecting safety with public safety and emergency management personnel, how they'll collect information from employees, how they'll coordinate and integrate within the agency, and how these internal and external agencies coordinate in dealing with emergencies and abnormal operations and really return to normal operations. So this policy document is really the agency's responsibility, and it's the one component that every agency really has to write and devise for itself. All of the other components, we're actually going to show you how GIS can help you meet those requirements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin. And Justin, if you want to take it away.
All right, thank you, Terry. Just make sure I've got the right screen showing here. Let's see here. All right. Well, hey, good afternoon or evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're excited to discuss the safety solution with you all. You know, I can speak for our transit team here at Esri when I say that we're excited to you know, continue to work with transit agencies across the country and really throughout the world, and hopefully to move the ball forward as we kind of look forward to a post-COVID environment. And safety is a big area for many transit agencies like yourselves. So, you know, in talking to transit agencies, we encounter a lot of challenges that many transit agencies face and has shared with us. Some of those being, and this is not by any means a comprehensive list, but you know, a lot of agencies have shared that they need a method for you know, employees to be able to report on potential hazards, right? Maybe that's a nail sticking out of a bench, or a damaged or burned out light, or maybe there's a bus that's leaking oil, something like that. So ideally, you want to be able to report on those things before they you know, turn into something that's more catastrophic. We understand a lot of agencies still use paper forms, which can make it difficult to know if you're looking at the most current version of your data. And it makes it difficult to share, you know, really that information throughout your agency in a expedient way. Paper reports can also be lost, as you all know. Those can be hard to read and require data entry in order to really look at kind of your overall project status. And then supervisors need to see which workers are available for the day to assign work to, right? So you need to get work crews out of the office, into the field, taking care of these issues to mitigate some of these problems before they become bigger issues. And then you ideally, you know, have issues with being able to monitor, and so maybe need a method of monitoring work that's been completed, and then ideally show that on some type of dashboard and some type of comprehensive visual way to show what's been completed, and to maybe show executives and upper level management, you know, that safety is of importance to your agency, and then, you know, potentially serve that out to the public. So, you know, for us, ideally, we will communicate three main things for you today when you look at the solution that Jay's about to present. So one being, which we know is important to everyone, that it meets the FTA requirement. The FTA, you know, loosely defines or has requirements around what that looks like. It can be low tech, high tech. You know, this one that you're about to see kind of goes above and beyond with some of the reporting as well as analysis capabilities. So we think you'll enjoy that. Again, we think agencies, a key point for them is to really promote safety internally across the organization, but then also to show your riders that, you know, safety is important as well, so they'll want to ride transit, right? Be able to show them that, you know, it's safe to do so, and that they'll want to keep coming back. And then finally, you know, big thing for us is that analysis piece. So to be able to analyze your safety data, look at hotspots where things are happening, so you can mitigate and make sure that those things don't occur on a regular basis, and you can, you know, make sure those issues don't turn into bigger events. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay Hagan, and he'll show you what we've got.
Great, thank you for that introduction, Justin and Terry. Are we sharing? Okay, so I'd like to start off here. We're going to go through the SMS solution here. So this is a comprehensive system. So there's a lot of pieces around this. I'd like to start off here with this dashboard. This is a dashboard showing the status of hazards and events that have been reported in our system. So folks that kind of work in the safety realm, you're familiar with these terms. Hazards are things that are reported that pose some kind of a risk. And that could be as simple as the carpet's pulling up in the office and somebody could trip on that, or it could be something even, potentially dangerous or serious, that like a hydraulic lift is malfunctioning. Those are things that we would want to, of course, have reported, so that way we can go out and mitigate that risk. So taking a look at this dashboard here, we can see that we have a number of hazards that have been reported over the past 90 days. And in fact, our reports are up quite a bit, but that's, I would argue, a good thing. We want to really encourage that culture of reporting these hazards so we can take care of them. Now, over on the left side, these are events. So events are things that actually happen. They refer to them as incidents, occurrences, and accidents, and the term varies on how severe that event is. But we can see that our events are going down, and by responding to hazards and mitigating that, we could potentially be lowering the number of events that occur, which is really what we want to do. We want to keep our employees safe. We want to lower those number of injuries. We also want to respond to these quickly. We see in both cases we're closing these out in a quick, efficient manner. So how did we get to this point here where we're responding to these quickly? Well, like Terry said, we implemented a comprehensive safety management system that's really based around ArcGIS, and it's not only going to meet the FTA requirement for PTASP, but we're going to go beyond that. We're going to engage your entire organization in the safety process, and we're going to allow you to analyze data to prioritize the corrective action, which ultimately should lead to a safer work environment. So I'm going to take a step over here to, this is our Transit Safety Management System hub site, and this is designed to be kind of an internal stopping point. Justin and I visit with a lot of transit agencies, or at least we used to pre-COVID, and you would always see the safety bulletin board, posted in garages and offices. But you could think of this as kind of your digital bulletin board. And what's great about this is this contains all of the information that somebody would need, and this updates in real time. So we can see the status of certain hazards. We have one open hazard, but we've closed 24. And here's some key information. And here I just have the components of what is a safety management system. Today's demonstration are going to focus on these first three components. That's the safety risk management, safety assurance, and safety promotion. Terry went into a little bit of detail about what each one of these means. So I would argue that by implementing these first three, you're in essence supporting your safety management policy. You're implementing that plan by doing these first three. So let's start off with safety risk management, and this is about identifying, assessing, and mitigating risk. So as I scroll down here, we have a number of reporting tools in order to have anyone in our agency report some type of a hazard. And the way this is probably done now in most places is somebody sends an email or calls somebody. And you might call somebody on your safety staff, whoever that might be, and you're reporting that manually. And that's still a valid way of doing that. However, we can leverage some other tools to help streamline this process, and it's really going to help us close out the entire hazard workflow, as we're about to see. One of those is this Transit Road Hazard Identification application, and this is what I refer to as a big button application that would likely be used by your transit service managers when they're out on the street. They're going to maybe encounter some type of a hazard along a bus route. Maybe it's glass at a bus stop, for instance, and all they need to do is hit that button, and that logs it into the system, the location, and it's passed along to the proper safety management crew. We also have this Transit Hazard Reporter application, and we can launch that right here, but I'd like to show you another way that we might report a hazard using this application. I'd like to take a step back here, and we're going to look at the SMS Hazard Workflow. And I'm going to start off here in this role as an employee who wants to submit a hazard. I'm going to say that I work in one of our bus garages. I see that there's some hydraulic fluid leaking, so that poses a slippery surface that creates a hazard. So I'd like to report that. However, I work in the garage. I probably don't have quick access to a computer. I want to be able to report this quickly and get back to my work. So let's take a look at how that might work. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my phone, and I'm going to pull up my camera. First, I want to show you there is a deer sitting right outside my office. I told you guys before we started. He's still there. Not sure if that's hazardous, but you could have these QR codes posted throughout your facility. So in the garage, I see this QR code. I can report a hazard. By scanning this, I can now launch the survey. This is going to allow me to quickly report a hazard to the proper authority. Let me just reload this. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log the location of the hazard. I've configured this for my agency to where I have a list of facilities. You could also include transit stops or train stations, things like that. I'm going to say I'm in the bus maintenance garage. That logs the location. The date is automatically logged here. The type of hazard that I'm seeing. So I'm going to say I see an unsafe condition. I'll give a quick description. Hydraulic oil spill in Bay 5. I can provide a photo. Here I have a picture. And then we also allow people to report anonymously if they choose to, or I could provide my information if I require follow-up. In this case, I'll just say I'm going to report this anonymously to get us through our demonstration, and I will submit this. And that's all I need to do at that point. I can get back to work now. I was able to just quickly pull up my mobile device and log that information. All right, so coming back to our workflow, I have now submitted that hazard. That's going to be passed along to our safety manager. So let's take a look at the safety manager application. One thing before I move on, I want to point out, sometimes when I show this, we work with transit agencies of all different sizes. Sometimes folks might think, well, I don't have a safety analyst and somebody who does mitigation, and we don't have a designated safety manager, or maybe one person does all 3 or 4 of these roles. That's completely fine. The workflow is going to function the same. You may just have different roles or designations, or maybe this is handled by just a few people. It will still work the same. So let's take a look at our safety manager application. And here, this is an application designed for me to assess and assign work for hazards and events. So I'm going to choose hazards. And here's a list of all of the hazards that have been reported. I can see their status. These are arranged in order of the time it was reported. So I'm going to select this most recent one here. And this is the one that we just now reported. So here, I can see the location. I see what was reported here, hydraulic oil spill in Bay 5. I see the photo. So here I'm getting a good sense of, okay, here's the situation here. Here's what this looks like. So what my job now is to assign this a risk score value. So based on what I'm seeing here, how risky is this? And then I need to assign somebody to either go out and either take care of this or do further assessment. Let's come in here and we're going to fill out some information. We're going to give this a pre-score, a pre-mitigation risk score. I'm going to give this a 2B, and this is based on an FTA risk assessment matrix. You could use whatever type of assessment you might want to use, but in this case, a lower number indicates a higher impact of this hazard, and a lower letter, a higher likelihood. So 2B means that something is likely to happen here if we don't take care of it, and it could be, fairly serious. Based on that score, I'll say this is a high risk. Let's enter my name here. And that's all I need to enter at this time. Now I'm ready to send somebody out into the field. So I'm going to create a work assignment. So I've created this work assignment form here, and this is actually connecting into ArcGIS Workforce to notify somebody out in the field that there needs to be some work done. So we have a work order hazard ID that's assigned. I pick the type of assignment. Based on what I see here, I think this is just a cleanup. I'm going to pick who I need to do this. I can give this a high priority. I want it done quickly. I've pulled in the description, so I don't even need to type anything here. Our location has been ported over as well, and I can even, include this image here. So I will submit that. So coming back to our workflow here, as the safety manager, I've seen what's been reported and I assess that, and I'm sending somebody out now to do some work. Let's take a look at that workflow now. So as somebody who's going to do that mitigation, let's come back to our phone here. I have my workforce application and I'm going to just sync this up real quickly here. So here I can see there's a new cleanup assignment for me. I can see the location of that. I see the photo, the description. So I'm ready to do some work here. So I'm going to accept this work. I'm going to hit start. And I can navigate to the assignment if I need to. So if I need turn-by-turn directions, this will launch Navigator and give me those turn-by-turn directions, how to get there. Let's say I've arrived at the location though, and I'm ready to actually, I've looked at what happened here, and I'm going to submit my findings back now. So I'm going to collect the assignment. We'll choose this. So here I can see the hydraulic oil spill. I see that, this was a pretty high risk to begin with. What I think is really great about this is that we are using what's referred to as a joined view table in ArcGIS Online. So this allows me to create these related tables. So for these types of inspection work in which you're often going back and revisiting and re-inspecting, you don't want to overwrite your information. You want to just keep a new record of this. So I'm going to create a new record here. Let's add some information. So mitigation type, this is the cleanup. I can enter my manager, clean up oil. And we'll go ahead and log our date here. And then going back to the actual record itself here, let's just add a couple of notes here as well. So I can give this a post mitigation score of an F because it's been eliminated. We'll say there was a leaky drum. And I'll just say mitigation in process here. And I am finished. That's all I need to do. I can log all of this information from my mobile device. I'll go back to my workforce here so that I've finished this, and all this information is being logged. So now stepping back here, we've mitigated that. That's getting passed back to our safety manager. So if I were to refresh my view here, I can see now mitigation is in process. I have this related record here, and I can even add a second record here, which is great. I'm not overriding any findings here, but if there's other inspections that need to happen, we can just continue to log that information. And I can come in here and say, okay, well, that looks good to me. Go ahead and close this out, and we will save that. So that's kind of going through the hazard workflow. There's a very similar workflow for responding to events. So I'm going to kind of let Justin talk us through this a little bit. This is our SMS event workflow.
Yeah, and real quick before we get into this workflow, Jay, so some of you may not have known what's really cool about the workflow that Jay just went through is with each one of those apps, you saw several apps and you may not have even realized it, but the cool thing is that it will launch a new app as it's needed, right? So you're going from being in the office to needing to launch Navigator to route folks for staff to get routed to the right location, and then to collect the data, and then back to kind of showing that they've completed that. So it's all configurable, which is great. We call it no code or low code, all configurable apps that are part of ArcGIS, and we'll talk about that some more. But yeah, you might have not seen all that going on behind the scenes. So like Jay said, the workflow for logging an event is very similar to logging a hazard. So as you know, working for a transit agency and safety, there's a little bit more involved with logging an event because there's an investigation part of that, right? So you send folks in the field, you filling out some forms, filling out some surveys, maybe can currently be a paper-based workflow, but this is obviously an automatic workflow that's using some of our apps. You're able to use this to do an investigation. Hey, we've got an issue that happened out here. What really happened? You're going to collect some data, push it back to the system, and then at the end of that, you have to conduct a report that gets pushed to your state or federal agency to do reporting. So the cool thing about this that we've gotten really great feedback on is that final report that gets completed at the end of the investigation. So you might currently do those reports manually by hand. Well, this gets all put in there as you fill it out. All the fields will be completed for you, and then you can just send that off via email or whatever to your reporting agency. So a big benefit to that.
Great, thanks, Justin. So yeah, kind of the next step, after you've done this type of work is, the report's great, but we wanted to actually do some analysis too. And that's really, I think, one of the major benefits of leveraging ArcGIS is that we have these very powerful analytical tools that we can leverage. So, as these events are happening, we can analyze that. And very similar in the hazard workflow. So as we're collecting all of this information, we could pass this to a safety analyst who can then kick that back over to a safety manager in order to kind of think about ways we can mitigate that and prevent it from happening. So coming back to our hub site here, we really looked at safety risk management previously here. So we identified, assessed, and mitigated. So now we're ready for safety assurance, and that really is doing that analysis, but also measuring, monitoring, and evaluating how well we are doing. Make sure that we actually are improving. I'm going to jump over to insights here, and these are some mocked up events that have happened. So there's a number of incidents, occurrences, and accidents have happened throughout our system. So I can see where those are located on a map, which is great, but I also have a number of other ways I can visualize this information. So for example, which one of these are preventable? Those are important ones to look at. Those are things we could actually take steps to keep from happening again. So as I interact with this, all of my cards and maps have updated to show me those accidents that are preventable. Looking at events by time, whether that's by time of the month or time of the day or day itself. Here you can kind of see the morning and evening rush hour peaks. So we tend to have more events at those times. Looking at other factors like weather. So here, by interacting with this, I can see that about half of our accidents happen during cloudy and bad weather. But just visualizing the data, this is great. This is really important, but we can bring some additional tools here as well. So let me zoom back in on our location here. We have analytical tools built right into this. So you notice I'm still in a web browser. I'm not going out to another application, although certainly we could leverage other tools like ArcGIS Pro, for instance. But here I could do some spatial analysis right here in the browser. And one thing I could do is calculate a density. This would give me a spatially, statistically significant result of where these accidents are clustering, and I can weight these based on how severe the accident is. So an accident that has more injuries or costs more is weighted higher than maybe a minor fender bender, for example. So looking at the result of that, we can see we do have some pretty strong hotspots here where things are happening. And if we kind of zoom in on this little downtown location, this is definitely showing up on the radar. And zooming in here to our individual events, we can see there's a lot of events happening here. So we could use this to start to investigate, well, what's going on here? Why do we see so many events happening here? Well, I could select these events here. And when I select these, again, this will update all of my cards so I can get a sense of what's happening here. So again, most of these are preventable, but looking at the initial report, I see that bicycle pops up a lot. So bicycle sideswipe, bicycle avoided passenger. So it's pretty clear that there's some type of interaction happening here between bicycles and our buses. And in fact, if we kind of zoom in here, you can see there is a dedicated bike lane in this location. So by running some analysis, I was able to locate this hotspot, and then by diving in a little bit further, I can get to the root cause, and I could start to put some mitigation in place. So just taking a look at this location here, this is what this area once looked like, and you can see the bike lane there. This is going through downtown Denver. But you could make some updates to this and create a dedicated bike lane that has these bollards in place that really kind of protects the bicyclists and separates our bus and pedestrian traffic from the bicycles. So good example of actually taking this information and making those data-driven decisions to make things more safe.
Yeah, and something that's really great about this application that you're looking at here, which is ArcGIS Insights, is so there's a lot of inputs here, right? So Jade's really configured this to be very specific with some of the data and some of the analysis that he's run. So say you want to run this, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the line and be able to compare apples to apples. The great thing is that all of this is saved in a model. And so all you have to do is change the data, or as your data changes on the back end, you run it through the model and you can do that analysis over and over and over.
Yeah, that's a great point, Justin. So all I'd have to do is just update my data source, and that's going to kick out the new results. I think another good benefit of this is that it helps make your decisions defensible. So if somebody says, well, how did you come to that conclusion? Well, here I've stored all the steps I've taken so that I can show, well, here's the analysis that I did. This is why this matters. So that's really kind of going I think above and beyond even what the FTA would require, but really giving you some really rich information in order to evaluate things like hazards and events. Another view of this, though, might just be our dashboard that we started off with here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and refresh this. It's been sitting for a minute. But yeah, this is another way to monitor safety measures that are taking place. So getting that high-level view of events and hazards. And you can see here, I don't know if you remember, we started with 10, but we're at 11 now on hazards because we actually reported a hazard in the first part of our demonstration. So this is updating in real time. But we can also get a little bit more in-depth information here too. So here I can go into an events view, total injuries, the status of our events, the view of when these are happening. And what's really nice is if, especially if you work on the safety team and you need to have your documentation here, I can pull up any one of these events and I have all of the information that's been logged, including our corrective action plan, what the status is, how quickly we resolve this, and of course that event report that Justin mentioned. This is something that often takes a lot of time. This is automatically generated by the system. So as we're doing all of our investigations and taking photos and so forth, it's logged in the system and it allows us to create this report on the fly. Similar view for hazards. Refresh this real quick. But we get a similar view for the hazards so that we can see exactly, the status of our hazards, where they're happening, how quickly we're closing these out. The key thing here, a lot of high and serious risk hazards are being eliminated quickly, and that's what we want to see. Of course, we can dive in on any one of these to see the information that's been logged here. Okay, let's go back to our hub here. So we've covered risk management and safety assurance now. So that's about measuring, monitoring, and evaluating risks and events. The final part of our demonstration covers safety promotion, and that's about communication and training. And really, that's what this site is designed to do. This is designed to be, like I said, your digital board that's updating in real time. We can link to our agency safety plan here, so this helps keep us accountable, but allows all of our employees to see what our safety plan is. Of course, providing access to the tools folks need, so being able to report on hazards, or if somebody needs to on events, they have those tools here as well. Giving folks a view of that same dashboard that we're just looking at. We just embedded it here, but we allow folks to see how quickly we're responding here. Promoting good behavior. So if you have kind of a safety spotlight, this is a good spot to show this. So here we're highlighting Keith, who used to be Justin's boss and has now moved on to a different role at Esri, but we're still highlighting him here as our safe employee of the quarter. Providing links to training and other information. So this could be safety regulations and practices for your bus garage employees, and they could click on this link and get that information. Embedding videos as well, so having interactive videos that talks about rail safety in this case. And then finally, events. And I'm not talking about incidents or occurrences here, but actual safety events like training, or in this case, we have our webinar here that we're promoting, so that anyone could click on this link and get access to the webinar. But really, any type of employee training or interactions, you can post those here, and folks can follow along. So really, this site is designed to engage the entire organization in the safety management process. With that, that kind of wraps up our safety management solution demonstration.
So yeah, Jay, that was awesome. I think a lot of folks probably would want to know, how they can get started with, hey, how do we implement the safety management system in our agency?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So we saw a lot of different components here. One thing I want to point out is everything I showed in this case is based in ArcGIS Online. So this is a completely cloud-based solution. There's really nothing that you necessarily have to deploy locally, although we are flexible on our deployment options. What's great about this is the majority of what we saw here today can actually be deployed through ArcGIS solutions. So there's a transit safety solution on our solutions website. This allows you to deploy a lot of the things that we saw here today, including a lot of the reporting forms, the safety manager application, and the dashboard. Some of the things it doesn't include are the hub site and insights, and some of the specific configurations that I made. For instance, assigning the work, I created a survey 123 form. But that's the great thing about this. This is configurable and extendable. So Justin and I can work with you. Maybe you use this solution deployment to get you started, but we at Esri can help you configure this and get it to where you need it to be for your agency. There's a really great story map here that goes into a little bit more detail about what the safety solution is and what those applications are that you get. So we can provide those links as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Justin.
Okay. Awesome. So if we did our job today, which I think we did, then hopefully you all have these kind of 3 key points stuck in your mind. Again, that being that the safety solution that you saw today meets the FTA requirement. Is we use kind of ArcGIS Hub as that centerpiece, right? Where we had kind of your agency promoting safety, where you can have apps embedded, you can have story maps embedded, you can have your calendar, you can do a safety spotlight, all kinds of things. Like Jay said, it's highly configurable, lots of options there. But ideally, that's what you would want to use to kind of use as a showpiece to promote safety across your organization. And with the use of ArcGIS Insights, you can take kind of that workflow a step further and analyze some of that safety data to understand why our current issues are taking place and how you can mitigate those so they don't become catastrophic events in the future. So with that, I think we might move into some questions, but I'll let Terry wrap it up.
Okay, thanks, Jason and Justin. That was great, and I'm always impressed by the fact that, quite frankly, most of what you saw there is actually just easily downloadable from our website. You can really download, and away you go. So we will show you the link to that site. And then, as both Justin and Jason mentioned, you can actually contact them, and if you need to sort of configure it to the unique requirements of your agency. So with that, we are going to open it up. If you have questions, please type your questions into the question box, and we'll get to them. So the first question has to do with the ability to really sort of integrate this with any sort of asset or work order management system. So whether it's, for example, Maximo, AssetWorks, how easy is it to integrate this, what we've seen today, into sort of a formalized enterprise asset management system?
Yeah, I can take that initially, and then I'll let Jay add anything if there's more on the technical end. So the truth is, we can really integrate with anything, right? our process for doing that we would have to just look at individual requirements. We obviously would want to go from understanding requirements document, things like that, and to understand, the needs behind integrating. But yeah, there's a number of systems that we integrate with, and yeah, we would just want to talk to you and understand your needs.
So, and I guess this might be an appropriate time. We do, I think the announcement was just made today, really sort of a partnership between Esri and Trapeze. And so we are really looking at how our two platform technologies can be integrated together. So as you all know, Trapeze does have an asset management system, and we'll actually be looking at how we can make those sort of seamlessly integrated. So to reinforce that message. There's another question that is asking whether this webinar will be offered again. Actually, we do pose the webinars. We post them up on our website. So roughly in about 3 or 4 days, it will actually be on our Esri Transportation Transit website. So you can, if you want to invite a colleague to see this and didn't get a chance, it will be available again. So
maybe Terry, just real quick to add to that, yep. And as well, we can meet with individual organizations to demo this and show this, and it would be a little more interactive, obviously, if we were either meeting over a conference call or in person, so we can do that at any time as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks. Another question. Question really about deploying it locally, not in the cloud, but if they wanted to deploy it locally, how would they do that?
I'll take that one. So everything that I used today was based on the ArcGIS Online platform. You could definitely deploy this using ArcGIS Enterprise on your own infrastructure, or even in the cloud like Azure or Amazon. The only differences, there's a couple of differences. So I was using ArcGIS Hub as kind of that entry point. You might use Enterprise Sites to do that. And then also I was leveraging those hosted join views. I do not believe those are available in Enterprise at this time, although I do think that is coming in the future. So a couple of minor differences there, but you could certainly, I think, get around those and be able to do most of this locally as well.
Okay, and let's see, there's a question basically is saying we do have Trapeze, so any more details on that integration, and maybe I'll go ahead and take that. We actually have been, as part of the process, we've actually been looking at where the sort of touch points between our two technologies, how they can be better integrated, and I think you're going to see more news coming down the line. Certainly, this is obviously a very key area where we think the ability to integrate the safety management solution back into, for example, the Trapeze asset management solution would be a sort of a natural one. So, and then
also real quick, Terry, to that point, next month at Trapeze's conference, Gary Waters, our Director of Transportation, will be doing a joint presentation with Trapeze. So you might want to catch that as well.
Yeah, and there's another question, where can I find out more on the collaboration between Esri and Trapeze? Yeah, again, the press release was just released this morning, and obviously more to come, but certainly we think it will be a great partnership between the two companies, and really the ability to integrate the rich functionality of Esri location intelligence into really sort of the great Trapeze solutions. We think is just a great win for transit agencies. There's another question relating to, is there a cost to insights? And maybe Jay or Justin,
Yeah. can handle that. Yeah, ArcGIS Insights uses a named user licensing model, and currently the price for that is it's $500 per year per user for ArcGIS Insights.
Okay, and let's see, will these, another question, will these mobile applications work on any mobile device?
The applications we use today will work on iOS and Android devices.
Okay, so equally as well on iOS as Android as well, yeah?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And let's see, other questions. How easy is it to configure? I have some pre-existing workflows that I've already, how easy is it to mirror what I've already done in my agency?
Yeah, I can take that. So everything we looked at today was configurable. So in fact, I started with that solution deployment from our solution site, but I've reconfigured a lot of things for the demonstration to add some functionality and add some new questions. And so because it's configurable, you can definitely tailor this to meet your work needs. And actually, real quickly, just jumping back to that previous question, if there is a use case for Windows, you can reach out to us and we can see what we're able to do there, and of course let our products team know that there might be a use case for Windows.
Okay, another question, can you upload Word or Excel or JPEGs or PDF incident reports? Is, I guess, the first part of the question, and then how much or how many years or of data can you actually analyze and report on?
I'll take that one too. So we kind of went through the process where I uploaded a JPEG photo. We're pretty flexible there as far as what we're able to upload, PDFs, documents, things like that. So I think you're covered there. As far as how much data and how far back, because this is hosted in the cloud, we really have kind of, I would almost say, limitless option there as far as how much data you want to host. Just keep in mind that if you are hosting it in the cloud, that there will be some credit consumption used there.
Okay, so and another question is really getting to the an agency has their own specific questions and criteria when it's really a bus accident. Could the incident report form be configured to that agency's specific questions and forms?
Absolutely. So for the incident reporting, we're using Survey 123, which allows you to really a lot of great options as far as how to configure a form.
Okay, so if there's a pre-existing form, you'd actually be able to mirror that and actually build those questions.
Absolutely.
Right in the form. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that's in fact how we designed it. We took a couple of agencies' existing forms and just kind of replicated it in Survey 123.
So, and for those other agencies that have actually implemented the safety management solution, can you point to kind of some of the leaders there? Sure.
Yeah. Pausing for Justin there. We do have there's a blog post published. We worked really closely with Phoenix Valley Metro to design this, so they're one of the main users of this at this time.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of the questions. We want to hopefully you all were impressed by what you saw. There is a little survey at the end of the webinar. If you would please fill that out for us, we'd greatly appreciate And we hope that you've enjoyed. We hope that you've seen. In fact, we've hopefully you now understand how GIS is really the centerpiece of transit agency's safety management system. And we look forward to both working with you in the future on this, but also additional webinars. So we hope that you've enjoyed today's session, and we look forward to having you join us in the future. So with that, we'll say thank you, and thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.